I'd like to welcome, please, Rick Henriques. Rick and I share an experience that we'll never be able to tell you about, but it happened in Maryland. Him and I bonded immediately that weekend. How you doing, Rick?
Doing great.
And are the mics on?
Nope.
Okay, we're good to go. So it is my great pleasure to be able to say, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lisa and Louise Burns, the Shining Twins. There we go. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
So what we'll do, as we always do, if you have a question, please raise your hand and try to project your question loud so that everyone can hear it. Okay, who has a question right here?
I kind of want to preempt a lot of questions. I'm sure somebody's going to say, how was it working with Jack? How was it working with Shelley? How was it working with Statman and all those guys? What I really want to know is, did you guys go to the premiere, and what did you think of that movie when you saw it for the first time on the big screen?
Okay, well, we didn't go for the premiere because in the UK it came out with an 18 certificate and we were only 10, so we weren't allowed to go. And we actually didn't see the movie until about 10 years later. And then I think we probably saw it on DVD, or rather, it would have been video then, back in the days before DVD. And I don't think we ever found it scary, because we knew how it's made, and we knew what we expected to see. The thing that I thought most when I saw it was very well put together, and the emotions of the characters were very well conveyed graphically, or rather optically. So you didn't need to be told how people felt, you could see how they felt. And I think that's probably what Stanley Kubrick is best as a director. When I've seen other things of his, I've always thought to myself, oh yeah, he described, you can see his characters' emotions, and you're very drawn into their world. You understand how they feel, and you can feel how they feel without the need for any words at all.
Who else has a question? Oh, come on, guys. Right here?
I'm sorry, we can't hear you, sir. Oh, the documentary Room 237. What? Oh, the documentary Room 237 didn't come out when we were filming. That was made later. Or do you mean the one that Vivian Kubrick shot at the same time?
He's just wondering what your thoughts on it were, like if you thought... Have you seen the documentary?
Yeah, I have seen the documentary. That came up with ideas I'd never heard of at the time, and I don't recall anyone speaking about those ideas on the set. So I can't speak for the veracity of those ideas. Okay?
Okay, right here.
So what was it like working with Stanley Kubrick?
That's such an old hand, really, aren't you, sir? He was a lovely, very family-orientated man, big bear of a man. I don't think I'd ever met anyone so tall in my life. We were very small people. And he had this really big beard. I don't think I knew anyone who had a big beard then either, actually. And he was a really, really, really lovely man. Really, really, you know, if you wanted to know, you hear people saying stories about Hollywood, certainly from previous era. But no, that wouldn't be at all true. We never had anything. No, he was a lovely man, really nice guy.
So he wasn't as strict with you as he was with the other characters in the movie?
For us, he was a puppet. I don't know how strict he was with anyone else. He was really cool with us.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, right here.
How did you get the role?
Question was, how did they get the roles?
It was a public audition, and we were in London at the time doing sightseeing with our mum and dad, and this public audition announcement came out on the radio, and mum and dad said, oh, do you want to go? Because I wanted to be a film star. So we said, yeah, let's go. And dad said, oh, don't worry if you don't get a part. You're probably going to look around the film studio, which, you know, this is before people do public tours of film studios, and certainly in England you didn't do public tours of film studios. So dad said, oh, this is probably the only way you'll ever get to see a film lot. So I thought, yeah, okay, we'll go. And there were thousands of other girls there. And I think we just went and we did a couple of screen tests for one of the assistant directors, or rather one of Stanley's assistants, Leon Vitali. And then you got moved up and up until you screen tested in front of Stanley Kubrick. And I guess he saw something in us and thought, yeah, you know, let's make them scary twins. Yes, in the picture we're not actually chopped up. But
it's not body doubles. We were told, you know, when you make a film, people use like white tape here to get you to lay down in a particular place. So we were just told to lay down in a particular place, and maybe once the shots were set up, maybe move an arm or a leg a few millimeters. But no, we're just holding our breath. Okay, we're good at holding our breath.
Yes, we did. That particular scene we shot after most of the other film we shot, so it shot a bit later when the sets were quieter and they were closed down. There were very few people on the set at the time that sort of rose of blood scene was shot, and the blood was just poured. It was just something called Kensington Gore, which the makeup artist Tom Smith made up, and it's just warmed up to body temperature and just poured over. So I remember my only concern was being cold. I didn't really mind being covered in red stuff. Yeah, we saw Jack on the set, and Shelley Duvall, and I seem to remember at the time she was going out with Paul Simon, and he had this cool little, or I think she'd recently split up with him. She was either going out with him or recently split up, I can't quite remember. And she had this cool little game that he was designing or developing, and it's a musical game set on a wheel. And I remember we played with that and thought that was really good fun. It's like a Space Invader, or sort of looked like a spaceship, but it had colours. I don't know if anybody else here remembers it. I don't.
Okay, right there.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could say that line from the movie, Daddy, come play with us. You said that earlier and it sounded exactly the same, so it was awesome.
Okay, a chance of recreating it now.
Did we say it to you, sir?
Yeah.
We
must be more careful in future. We must do it the day after the Q&A. Okay. Come and play with us, Danny. Forever and ever. Hope you all have horrible nightmares.
Okay, here's a question all the way in the back. All we heard was, you heard that it was true that the hotel was haunted. Do you want to come closer so we can hear you, or?
Yeah, put a mic on.
No.
Right, well, the hotel in The Shining, the exterior shots were brought in, I think, from Oregon or somewhere, Colorado. But the interior shots that you see in the movie is just a film lot. When you see in the movie the front of the hotel when Jack Nicholson is chasing Danny, that was held up on acroprops. It was just a front made out of plywood and painted to look like a hotel. And in the movies you can make anything real, so that's what they did. I think it's cheaper to do it that way than actually go and rent a hotel for months on end. I don't know what it costs to rent a hotel for months on end, a lot.
The hotel in Colorado, though, it was a hotel that Stephen King actually stayed in, and the room number is actually the room number of the room that he stayed in, and it supposedly is haunted. And the opening shot of the movie, when you see the long winding road that goes up to the hotel, that was all done. Like that's the road to the actual hotel. Once a year they have what they call a shining party, where they recreate the masquerade party that's in the film. Is it the Estes Hotel? The Stanley Hotel, I'm sorry, that's right.
There's that evil work going on right there.
It's this, I'm sorry, thank you. It's the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, but the scenes you see of a lot of the hotel, the interiors are sets, but a lot of the outside stuff is the actual hotel that Stephen King stayed at. And they're very grateful to Stephen King for writing that book.
I got a question. So what was it like to work with Stanley Kubrick? I mean, he's one of the most influential filmmakers of all time. So you were a lot younger, but what was it like to meet him and be with him and actually work on set with one of those amazing films ever made?
Oh, well, we unfortunately didn't know who Stanley Kubrick was at the time because we were 10. My parents knew who he was, and my mum was quite fond of things like Dr. Strangelove, and she thought he was quite an interesting film director. But so what was it like when we met him? He was just a really easy person to meet, but we were only 10. I think maybe as you get older and you understand who people are, their significance, their cultural significance, maybe then you can step back and see them more as the cultural significant part of themselves than rather as the human part. When we met him as children, he was more the human than Stanley Kubrick, the big American director. I don't know that he got bigger as time went on after The Shining too. So I hope that answers your question.
And also we didn't have to go to school so much because we were filming.
Yeah, that's enough.
We had this tutor and that was quite easy to duck. We got a spoon pot.
Okay, right here.
Not since The Shining, no. We probably had to get an education, something to fall back on, in case that didn't pan out. Before The Shining, we did TV work, yeah.
Ken, with your hand up there.
No.
No, never. It's amazing how cult film has become.
And how really nice people are. So please be really nice.
Okay, over here.
I'm completely confused by the ending. What do you think happened? Because I still don't know.
I like to think the bad guys die, because it means I can go to bed at night.
Okay, somebody had a question up here? Right here?
What do you think of the remake? The remake. The
Never
television
seen the
series.
remake.
Oh God, no! What do we think of the remake? No, I
I've
have
seen it.
I have seen the remake. Leon Vitale phoned me one night and said it was on UK TV. Yeah, it's very confusing. The topiary move, and in my experience, Hedleys don't move. And if Hedleys did move, we wouldn't find them very frightening because they don't move. We're frightened by ourselves, not frightened by strange things moving. That's just weird. Whereas, if I wanted to frighten you, all I'd have to do is wait very quietly behind you, very quietly go boo, and that would be frightening enough, wouldn't it?
Right here.
Rarely.
We hide.
I think internet has changed things enormously, and how accessible people are has changed a lot thanks to the internet. But, we had heard rumours that The Shining was big in the States, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, let her finish.
I guess it had been alignment of planets. I don't know. It's just things panned out that way.
Okay. Person with your hand up right there.
I'm slightly confused by your question because there are two girls in the book, although they aren't twins. Is that what the question meant?
There's sisters, but in the book there's sisters, but they're not twins.
So the idea of these two girls appearing from the past to warn Danny that something was wrong in the hotel was in the book. No, sorry, I think it was just developed further.
No, yeah, when Kubrick ran an open audition, he was looking for sisters, but we're also sisters as well as twins. So we went. Sorry, I'm not teaching And then when Stanley Kubrick met, well, I think when Leon Britannia met us, and because we do often talk together, as this guy over here somewhere found today, we do often talk together, just in our own, when you people aren't here, we also talk together.
I think that actually sounds creepy.
So I think when Kubrick heard that, then I think he thought, he had the germ of an idea that could be used to be slightly more frightening, because it isn't what people usually expect to hear. It's like, Topiary doesn't usually move, but it's not frightening. Because if I stood behind you and said, boo, I don't usually do that, that would be frightening.
Yeah, Kubrick was very good at taking sort of relatively ordinary looking things and changing the way that they appeared. So yeah, if you look at things like Dr. Strangelove, which is a movie about the Third World War and the nuclear war, and yet it's a comedy. And it works really well as a comedy. It would never work as a serious movie. But is the total global destruction funny? No. But somehow he manages to make it seem slightly amusing. And he's done that in lots of his movies. He's managed to take very ordinary things out of, not quite out of context, but use them in a very unusual way. And we've all looked at that and thought, wow, that's quite an unusual way of doing it. So I don't think the twins were particularly scary. Twins were unusual, perhaps, before The Shining, but I don't think they were particularly scary.
Haunted hotels aren't particularly unusual.
No.
Lots of hotels are haunted.
None of the ideas really that come up in The Shining are particularly new, and yet he gave a whole new look to them, and that's captivated people's imaginations.
Okay. Right here.
How much time did you actually spend on the set?
Up until the shooting of the laying down in the blood scene, it was about 9 weeks, and then we went back to school, and then school broke for the short holiday, and we shot that last scene in about a week. So even though it only appears on screen for like 10 seconds, if you blink, you miss it. When I first saw it, in fact, the first time I saw the movie, I never even saw that film. That scene, I just assumed it had been cut. And it was only sometime later someone said to me, oh yeah, that scene with you laying in blood, do you remember doing that? I said, yeah. I said, but I don't think it made it the final cut, because I'm sure I didn't see it. And someone said to me, no, it is there. And I had to watch it on slow mo to keep going until I found that scene. I thought, oh, he did put it in. Whereas I just assumed it, like a lot of stuff that we filmed just ended up in the
a lot of stuff does.
That's what happens when you film stuff. When you come to put it together, it doesn't work. You think, okay, I'll cut that. Or sometimes you have to cut a film because the country it's being shown in, they don't want it to be that long. The cinema that's showing it want it to be cut down. Or some countries aren't happy with some of the images and you have to cut them out. And so when a film is spliced again and again and again, it often seems like there are lots of continuity errors. But those errors aren't usually there at the beginning. Those errors usually just creep in slowly when film is cut and cut and cut going around the world. I mean, now it's slightly different because cinema is far more integrated globally, so you don't get quite so much continuity errors. But generally when a film is made, the continuity girl takes Polaroids on every single, almost minute of a film being made to make sure that people are standing in the same place from one shot to another. Stanley Kubrick was quite good at using a camera from behind someone and then juxtaposing that with the camera in front of someone, so you could effectively see both sides of a conversation as the people were talking. And all of that would have been very closely monitored. But when you see The Shining or any other movie, through again, you think, oh, hang on, weren't his trousers a different colour a few minutes ago? Wasn't the chair in a different place? And you wonder how things like that creep in. Lots of times things like that creep in because a film has been cut in order to get it into different picture houses or different cinemas, or for a director's cut, or, you know, for the producer's cut, or the star's favourite cut, or whatever cut it is they're going to make these days.
Okay, we're going to take a couple last questions right there. The question is, after the film was released,
Yeah.
were they treated differently at school?
Yeah.
I bet you were
no.
treated differently when you went to hotels.
No, not really. We were quite lucky because we just a bit after that we made that film. It was unfortunately our school's Christmas play thing, and that year they were doing The Boyfriend, and so we had a Pierrot and Pierre role. It was inserted into The Boyfriend. It's the lovers in France, and the French lovers, they die. You know, everyone knows that Commedia dell'arte story. The London Evening Standard sent their guy down to review a small girls' school Christmas play. That probably wouldn't happen without the film, but it was nice. We knew the guy; he was a nice guy.
And it probably helped that that particular film critic was an associate of Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, he knew Stanley Kubrick. That's probably why he came. It's a mates thing.
And I should probably point out that Pierrot and Pierre at the time were mimed. So
Oh
he
no,
never said anything.
no! Lulu sang. Lulu sang the song. I danced and died, but Lulu sang.
I
Oh
can't.
God, we can't remember it. That was something years ago. How many songs can you remember?
I'm not singing without auto-tune.
Okay, we'll take one last question from someone that hasn't asked one yet. Over here. Over here.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Because we were actually offered the dresses from the movie, but we didn't like them. So we didn't keep them. And I think they used to be in California. I think they're gradually moving their way around the world. Do we wish we'd kept them? I think you can say,
Yeah.
I've got a hair slide. That's it.
Whoa.
It's possessed. There we go. Okay, we're going to take one very last question, and we'll have the sisters stand up and let you take some photos with them, and we'll go. Okay, right here.
Do you have children, and if so, would you let them watch The Shining?
The question is, do they have children, and if so, are the children allowed to watch The Shining?
I have I have children. I've got 2 children. They're too young to watch The Shining. I wouldn't stop them watching The Shining. They have seen still photos of us, obviously not the one where we're laying in pools of blood, because they might find that disturbing. And they just think it's surprising that Mummy's wearing an odd-coloured blue dress. That's all. They don't particularly like the dress, and I have to say I mostly agree with them.
Okay. We'll ask the girls to stand together if anybody wants to take some photos.